Okay, fellas, what you're looking at here is my little Husqvarna arborist saw. Some call them tree surgeon saw. It's a T435, and I just got done cleaning it up. I'm getting ready to use it up in the tree, and I put some gasoline in there, some mix. And I'm using 32-to-1 in my saws nowadays. I used to use 32-to-1 in my saws before, and then I thought, well, these new saws 50-to-1, blah blah blah, and I started thinking, well, probably just gonna wear out faster. So I did a little experiment, 40-to-1, and then I went back 32-to-1. So anyway, took it all apart, I put a fresh saw chain on there, cleaned it, lubricated the bar, just get you one of these grease, they call them a grease gun. This is a grease marker. And you want to have you a couple of different screwdrivers, which you put a little bit of shop towel on the end of your screwdriver and get into the nooks and crannies, or you can use air and blow it out. You want to clean your chainsaw bar groove. I use a big paper clip, so you just drag it from the tip to the back on both sides. Clean out the oil hole, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Check your air cleaner, make sure your air cleaner's clean. Husqvarna air cleaners generally run pretty clean, I've noticed. I ran steel saws in the past, but these Husqvarna saws have grown on me. They were kind of dogging down a bit, but when I changed and got more oil in my mix, that bogging down with the engine stopped. So I'm thinking that's a whole EPA thing, no, use this, use that. You know what, I'm going back to old school, and just lubricates the engine better. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing. So this little T435 is a pretty nice little saw. You've got this clip here that pops out that you can hook it on stuff if you want, but it's only screwed in, and I'm not sure what it's screwed into, so I don't trust it completely. So I've got a setup here. What I did is I took this little parabiner. This is a parabiner. This is rated to 8 kilonewtons. Okay. And it's AISI Italy 316 stainless. So I made this lanyard out of tubular webbing. I sewed it myself with box stitching and whatnot on that side. On this side I sewed the heck out of it. And I put this on here, this clip, so as you can see, this screws on and off. So I want that over there. There. So this, I clipped this off on my climbing harness slash saddle. Okay. There's like a ring. Okay, there's like a tool ring. I just clip it on there. And my loops that I have around near the waist, I just use this basic carabiner to clip the saw off into the loop on my waist, right? So this will give me plenty of reach anywhere I want, either hand. And if you drop it, it's not going to go anywhere. You know, this particular one here goes into the saw somewhere. It's always somewhere, right? Anyway, pretty good little saw. You got a primer here, choke switch here. This is that button I had talked about in another video right here. Okay, this little red button. That little red button, something happened. It hit, I think it hit the tree trunk or whatever, and then it went missing. And then the saw was still running. And then, you know, I went ahead and finished up what I was doing. Then I had to go to the saw shop, get another one of these switches. They actually had to order it. It's really weird. Anyway, to turn the saw off, I just hit the choke. Turn the choke like that, and it just floods the saw, chokes it out. So, yeah. Another little thing about this Husqvarna is it's got really nice fuel and oil caps. They don't leak either. So I'm going to go ahead and put some, I put the fuel in already. I'm going to go ahead and put the bar and chain oil in. There's also one other thing I wanted to point out about these caps. So that flips up and makes it, you know, fairly easy to turn off. Sometimes they get a little vacuum tight though, right? So, you know, always make sure you wipe off around them too as you're taking them out. It keeps the crud out of there, and you don't have to change out the internal filter in there. Anyway, undo this cap. You'll see if you break this thing off, there's a slot in there for a scrunch, right? So get the scrunch. So there's a slot in here. In case you break that off, you could still turn it out. You see? So that's a nice little feature. Now this bar and chain oil, this is just a container. I generally will run AMSOIL. Okay. Put a little AMSOIL. I generally put a quart of AMSOIL and then some other bar oil. You know, just to kind of like make it a little better. You know. Now with my saw mix, you know, you're going to use like AMSOIL in there. You don't want to use any basic cruddy mix off the shelf. You know, you want to use something good like AMSOIL or another high performance oil for your saw, because I mean saws cost a lot of money. I mean that's just the reality of it. A good saw will cost a lot of money, and you want to keep it running in top condition, right? I shared a technique for blowing out clogged oil pathways on another video. I'll talk about it here right now since we're talking about saw oils and stuff. If you have some clogging in your oil pathways that get the bar oil to the chain, you know, mix in a bit of synthetic 5W30 motor oil with your chain oil. You know, I throw some royal purple in there, you know, maybe fill it up 3/4, halfway to 3/4 with regular bar and chain oil, and then go ahead and fill it up the rest of the way with something like 5W30 Royal Purple or Amsoil or Redline. Okay, and then get you a small screwdriver, make sure it's clean, right? Make sure it's nice and clean, and then go ahead and mix it all up in there, and then put your cap on. And then rev the saw a bit, you know, rev the saw a bit, and that thin oil will work its way through those channels, and it will blow out that stuck sawdust oil crud that is built up and is stopping you from getting the proper amount of oil to your bar. Alright, that's something you could do. Now you see my bar, the paint has worn here, and it is worn here. That's from doing a lot of tree work in here at my house. Okay, being up in the trees, but if you keep your bar, here's the thing to long bar life: keep your bar lubricated. Keep a sharp chain. Okay, those are the two big things. Keep your bar lubricated and keep a sharp chain. You should not have to push with your chainsaw to cut anything. If your chain is not sharp enough to cut, take it off, put a fresh chain on, and then later in the day when you're done with your work, go and sharpen all your chains. You know, don't try to saw with a dull chain or a semi-dull chain, because that is what is going to cause you to push, and when you push, it's going to cause you to have excess wear on your bar. And that's why you see guys flipping the bars all the time. You might see them with a bar that has the name upside down. It's because they think, well, I'm going to flip my bar to cause equal bar wear. Well, you won't have all that bar wear if you don't push on it and cause the bar wear. That's what causes the bar wear, is you pushing, because your chain is getting dull. If you don't have a dull chain, you don't have to do nothing. Get that saw on there, and that chain will just cut right through that wood. Okay, should not have to be pushing. All right, check your chain brake, make sure everything's working proper. All right, now, this is a brand new chain. I thought, well, I got a fresh tree. See how it snaps back? But it's a brand new chain, so it's going to stretch a little bit. So I'll start it up, run it for a minute, and then turn it off. And then I will check the tightness. So, what am I going to do here? I'm going to go ahead and prime it in my choke, and then give it a pull. There, almost started. Go ahead and turn the choke off. Give it a pull. get a bit of extra smoke. Got a heavier gas and fuel mixture, but it sure runs great. Alright, I'm going to check that chain. Get on with it. See you later.